Today on LawNext, an exclusive first look at a new company launching today that its founders believe will rapidly accelerate the adoption of technology by corporate legal departments and major law firms. I'll be joined by one of the founders, Joe Borstein, as well as by Basha Rubin, co-founder and CEO of the legal talent platform Priori Legal, whose company is involved here in a way you'll learn more about as we talk about this. This is Bob Ambrogi, and you're listening to LawNext, the podcast that features the innovators and entrepreneurs who are driving what's next in law. We'll get to today's interview in just a moment, but first, let's hear from the sponsors who generously support LawNext. And now, on to this week's interview. Well, let me welcome my guest today, Joe Borstein. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me again, Bob.
Good to see you. And Basha Rubin, welcome to you.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So, Joe, we've got an announcement today, some news to report. But before we do that, why don't we just start by having you tell our listeners a little bit about your background up until this point. Who are you and what have you done?
Absolutely, thanks. So, who am I? Good question.
Not in the philosophical sense, just
yeah. Well, I'm going to go a little bit philosophical. Look, my parents are both lawyers. My dad still runs his own firm at 82, and I went straight from Penn undergrad to Penn Law School with every intention of picking a firm and staying there for the rest of my life. I think that's relevant because, about 6 years in to my job as an associate after hitting my requisite 10,000 hours of billables, I think I realized what a lot of people realized back around 2009, 2010, which is that a lot of the work that lawyers were doing was not essentially the practice of law, and there was probably a better way. I was lucky enough to be really close friends with a woman who moved to India to help David Perla and Sanjay Kamlani train lawyers in India on things like research and things like 50-state surveys, work that I had actually done with her at my first law firm, Kazowitz. And when she was back in the U.S., she took me out for drinks and told me that it was not a social call, but a recruiting call. So I kind of fell, and I hate to use this term on radio, but ass backwards into this world of legal innovation.
Bass backwards, we say on radio.
Bass backwards, right? That's much more appropriate. This world of legal innovation that was, rethinking through process, technology, and globalized services, kind of everything that had been done in the practice of law. And I just fell in love with it. I started, as a kind of like a consultant, subject matter expert for Pangea on the litigation side. But over time, I moved into the world of business development for them. It was really eye-opening because once I realized that the work could be done at as good, if not higher, quality than work in law firms, and at the time, truly 1/10 the cost. I thought this was going to be the easiest job I had ever had. The job to convince people to, spend 1/10 of what they were spending on something as good, if not better. But it wasn't. It was very challenging. And distributing innovation in law has been a barrier for a ton of people. I worked at it day in and day out. I did a lot of reading. I was on, the psychology and sales of sales and persuasion, and started figuring out how to move the needle a little bit and get people to try it, with a special success really with law firms that were thought to be a no man's land for legal innovation, because anything that we call it the legal innovator's paradox, anything that makes work go faster also in theory cuts into the billable hour, right?
Something you've written a lot about on Above the Law and your column there, and
I've used that as kind of a whiteboard to think through that. So over about a decade, I went from this consulting role, subject matter expert, to business development, to managing a business development team, to eventually running global go-to-market, ex financial services with a large team under me, and a lot of success in growing the business by, I think, talking to lawyers at their level about how these innovations don't need to cut into their profits and their billables and can actually, grow their books of business, make fixed fee arrangements more profitable, and really trying to create win-win situations more and more, as we move towards legal innovation. As you know, Bob, about 6 years ago, I started writing for Above the Law about the other innovations going on. So I think, globalized services, which are tech-enabled, really led the way. But behind that, you saw an explosion of legal technology come out. Some of which was good, some was okay, but over time, you started seeing more and more solutions that were really fantastic.
Yeah.
Basha is going to talk about one of them that she's co-founded and is the CEO of with Priori, but there's lots of examples, and you have this world that's getting more and more complex on the vendor side and more challenging for the buyers to understand what is good and what isn't. Even in the world of academia, you have law schools trying to wrap their heads around what the future of law is going to look like. And without getting too much into LexFusion yet, after our move to EY, the whole Pangea 3 team, about 1,100 of us moved over. I started really thinking long and hard about how to grease the gears of commerce in legal innovation and get things moving faster and get the right tools into the right people's hands. And so that's kind of my backstory and where we are today, trying to get this off the ground.
Yeah, and you dropped the name. I hadn't even mentioned LexFusion yet. I was gonna let you announce it. We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. But I wanted to bring Basha in and have her give us a little bit about your background and what you do. And your trip from law school to what you're doing now is a little quicker than Joe's.
Indeed it was. So I similarly straight from Yale College to Yale Law School, though unlike Joe, never thought I would go to a law firm, thought I would do public interest law. But once I was in law school, I began to see how vertical marketplaces, along with my co-founder Mira Levitt, were transforming other kinds of industries, and saw the opportunity to import many of the same principles to law in a highly industry-specific way, and just became so enamored of the idea that we might be able to transform the way legal services are delivered by loosening big law stranglehold on the industry, and by providing information to a whole range of consumers of legal services, originally individuals and small businesses, and now some of the country's largest corporates, by providing highly detailed data about attorney background, expertise, and pricing, while creating a whole set of back office efficiencies for both law firms and businesses. And I couldn't pass up the opportunity to be part of what I saw as one of the greatest waves of innovation in legal services. I too was a similar moment in time as Joe's. I graduated from law school in 2010, and there was so much frothiness in the market at that moment that I leapt in, and it has been a wild ride since. And I think we're entering a very similar moment again with the pandemic and some looming economic crises, perhaps, that I think is a real catalyst for legal innovation and for legal departments and law firms thinking innovatively about how they can accomplish more with less and much more efficiently than they have before. So I'm particularly excited to be here today to have the opportunity to talk about what we're doing and what Joe is doing, given that moment.
Yeah, well, in crisis there is opportunity, I guess.
That's right.
We are the reason we're recording this today and releasing this today is because this is the day, Joe, that you are announcing the launch of a brand new company that you and Paul Sroka, as your co-founder, are launching. So tell us what it is. Tell us what you're doing here.
All right. So think of LexFusion as a collective of best-in-class legal innovation companies representing most and hopefully at some point all of the mature kind of ready for action solutions for corporate counsel and law firms. So LexFusion, if you were to picture like a circle with dots around it, LexFusion is this engine sitting in the middle that is going to bring together the solutions, services, and technologies of this collective. Right now it's 7 companies, including Priori, and be able to walk in to corporate counsel and law firms and say, we represent the best of what's out there in virtually every category that you need. Let's talk through where you are now in your life cycle, your maturity. Think about things you need to get to that next step, and think about pre-vetted, excellent solutions that you can move forward with tomorrow. So a lot of the talk today in the legal innovation circles are about how innovation is so difficult, and the truth is I don't think that's true. From my experience with Pangea, through my experience with various technology companies, writing about them and partnering with them at Pangea, a lot of these technologies, including Priori, are quite mature and ready to go and ready to show you improvements in cost, efficiency, and getting you better legal results right now. So we kind of want to be that Sherpa. We want to be that peer that walks in the room and walks you through everything that is out there, while also creating connective tissue between these fantastic non-competitive companies that we believe will be better together and will be, spending less time on unnecessary and unproductive market-facing activities like cold calls and annoying, pestering marketing, and more time on meaningful meetings talking about real problems and how to get to solutions. If you think about it from, again, as Basha said, from the maturity of the legal technology and innovation market, to me, this represents kind of the next step in division of labor, right? So you have Adam Smith's pin factory, right? First you really just had law firms that were producing everything. Then you started having managed services companies disaggregating some of that work. The next step was you had technology companies, and I call it, again, the Cambrian explosion. There's so many technologies out there pushing often point solutions, but often broad-based solutions that are ready to go. And I think today with LexFusion, you have dedicated go-to-market engine in a way that you've certainly never had in legal, but has certainly worked in other industries. And I think the time has come, and the buyers are ready for a wave of simplicity to wash over the complexity that they've had to deal with the past couple of years.
You mentioned there are 7 companies involved, and Priori Legal is one of them. Do you want to say what the other companies are?
Absolutely. So in no particular order, we have the AI timekeeping company Ping, who has at its core a goal to eliminate the daily drudgery of marking your time, and also to increase collection through more efficient timekeeping and more accurate timekeeping. You have the phenomenal e-discovery technology and services company Haystack ID. Haystack was doing remote reviews and had excellent technology to monitor, train, and keep people moving in the right direction remotely. They also have facilities like everybody else, but they have a true secret sauce that they had way before the pandemic, which I think is now obvious to everybody. Keeps costs down. The work can be done excellently and efficiently, and the bottom line is everyone has to do it now for at least the next few months, if not year. So we think they've really pushed the envelope. Latera. As you know well, Latera has become a real behemoth in the world of legal innovation. They just bought Allegory. They bought Doxley. They're doing workflow across most of the major areas of legal work that lawyers do. Priori, obviously, we talked about Agiloft. Eric Laughlin, my former managing director at Pangea 3, just took the helm there. They just got ranked top tier in the Gartner reports, and they have just a phenomenal CLM, but really enterprise CLM technology that can map into virtually anything that people need out of their contracts, from drafting to repository and everything in between, and have just gotten amazing feedback from the market on their abilities. IntelliTeach is one that you might not know, but you really, really, really should. They're basically outsourcing and adding quality and lower cost to virtually everything that law firms do outside of the practice of law. So where Pangea 3 was outsourcing, quasi-legal work like document review and contract review, IntelliTeach is outsourcing things like IT and finance and collections in a way that is dropping directly to the bottom line of partners, allowing them to simply make more money in year one, which I think is music to their ears and a much cleaner story for the law firm community. So we can't wait to roll that one out. And finally, Factor, which is, in our view, the most experienced CLM review company, and our friend Ed Sohn just joined them to lead their technology integration. So it's 7 companies, and I think you can see from the breadth of what they do, it really does cover the vast majority of what is going on in the legal innovation world. And as we continue to kind of do our research, we do hope to be able to block out the sun in a way and be able to say that we have fantastic companies in anything corporate counsel or law firm administration needs. That's the goal.
And each company is largely, for the most part, non-competitive with each other. So
they're all non-competitive. Yeah, and they've all look, each one of them, it's easy to kind of see this wrong and see it as kind of like a sales for hire organization. It's not. Right. Basha can tell you with each one of these companies, we hunted them down as, in our view, best in class. Now, look, nobody's perfect. Like we're going to make mistakes too, but I hope that the work we've done with Pangea, working on many of these technologies and the writing and the investing that we've been doing over the past 10 years, gives us real deep insight and experience and anecdotes on top of the relationships that we have with the founders, and they're all well funded. They all have phenomenal management teams like Basha, Yale, and Yale Law. She doesn't lean into it like I would. I mean, just phenomenal pedigrees and experience, and like terrific people that in each of their niches are trying to fundamentally change the game. That's exciting to us. And that's what we think we're going to bring to the table for corporate counsel and law firms.
Yeah. We'll get back to my interview in just a moment, but first, let's take a break to hear from the sponsors who generously support LawNext. And now, let's continue this week's interview. So Basha, your company, as Joe just said, is participating in this. What is, why did you want to be part of this?
Well, I this isn't the whole story, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that if you've met Paul and Joe, you would not be asking me that question. You would know the answer to that question. They're both.
I'll pay you later, Basha. Thanks for that. Yeah.
I mean it, Joe. Joe and I were talking about this when he had first made the decision to do this, and I basically said, whatever it is, we'll be a part of it. Yeah. And that's not only because they're phenomenal salespeople, which they are, so phenomenal, in fact, that if you tell them what you're doing, they'll echo it back to you in a way that clearly communicates in a way that's resonant with your buyer, but also because they know the market better than anyone else. They've been involved in legal innovation for a decade and really took the time to understand the overall landscape of the different kinds of technologies that Fortune 500s and AmLaw 200 firms are purchasing, and had very detailed conversations with each of these companies about what their value proposition was, what their technology was, and did their diligence. And so I felt like the opportunity to both work with Paul and Joe and be part of a consortium of other technology companies who were pushing innovation forward was too good of an opportunity to pass up. Particularly, the market, I think, the market has changed, as we all know. We've all been around for a little bit now. The market has changed in the past.
I've been around for more than a little bit at this point. But,
I'm starting to feel that way too.
You got a long ways to go, I believe.
But, and now that there are dedicated people in law firms, in legal operations and innovation officer roles in legal departments and law firms, it's not a fragmented sales process. It's someone looking over the next 3 to 5 years and thinking about what solutions they need and how to sequence them. And so my view is that we're stronger. We're stronger coming in together. We're stronger being able to present a package. And we're stronger when there's someone like Paul and Joe who can work with those legal ops people, those innovation officers, and help them think strategically about how to piece together solutions to their problems that involve multiple companies, because that's the truth of what they're looking for. And so I think that opportunity for a company like mine is extraordinarily exciting.
I mean, I can see certainly can see the advantage to a company such as yours. What is the advantage to the buyers, to the people that Joe or Paul are going to be going out and meeting with?
Yeah, so I mean, this was all built from the perspective of the buyers. I'm going to leave people's names out of it, but multiple buyers from the Fortune 5, I'm not even going to go to the Fortune 10, have told me that the onslaught of information, cold calls, cold emails, has gotten to the point that it's actually disrupting their work. They want to stay involved and stay educated, but it's a Cambrian explosion. I mean, you have various rapid iterations and the use of AI, expert systems plus services, expert systems plus global services, video chat. You have all these things coming together and mixing and matching in different ways, and it's virtually impossible for anyone to wrap their heads around it. I mean, just from personal experience, when I started the alt legal column for Above the Law, I think it was 6 years ago, I spent most of my time hunting for stories. When I took a hiatus, when I moved over to Ernst & Young, I had so many inbound stories, I couldn't even keep track of what people were working on. And that is a pain for the buyers. And I will say, it's a pain that's so palpable that many of them say to me, even if XYZ is a good solution, they've cold called me so many times, I just can't work with them. So we want to change that paradigm. We want to get to a much more mature buying cadence. We want to have organized around 2 meetings a year with the right people at every buyer and walk them through all of the things that are relevant to them that have moved forward in the industry. We also want to take another pain off their shoulders. Let's say they get that cold email or cold call, and you know what? As annoying as it was, it's pretty interesting. What we are going to offer them is LexFusion. Unlike like a Thomson Reuters or any big company, is very flexible. We will always be changing with the times, and we will always be admitting new members, and also probably moving on from members when they become mature enough that they no longer need our help. That's a feature, not a bug, right? Yeah. So what we've offered them is, if you see something interesting, send it to me. Like, I will spend real time with it. I will vet it. I will understand their business model. I'll understand their technology. I'll understand what they plug into. And if it's really a phenomenal solution for you, not only will I come back to you and tell you that, but I will work hard to make them part of the network, which hopefully will be an absolute no-brainer for them. So next year, when I go out to the Fortune 50 and the Fortune 200 and the law firms, I will have this new thing that I'm talking about, which not only strengthens my relationship with them because I put the work in, but also strengthens the whole network, because we're getting back in, year after year with all these interesting things, even though, in year one, they might not have been interested in Priori, not because Priori is not amazing, but because they had 3 other things that were top of mind for them, and there was a lot of change management.
But how does that work for a startup? I mean, you've got Priori, you've got your talent platform as part of your collective, as part of your consortium.
That's right.
I start a new company in that space tomorrow.
Don't do that to me.
How would I have an opportunity? Don't worry, I'm not doing it. How do I get into this if you've already got that company that's already part of the consortium?
Right. I mean, look, we are making our bed. We are not guns for hire, right?
Yeah.
So we have vetted the market and we've chosen Priori, and Priori is our client. So the answer is you're not going to.
Yeah.
If in the future we do have quality commitments in our contracts, so this will never happen. But if for whatever reason, Basha had a breakdown and the company went to hell, we would talk about that with our contract. But that's not what we're doing. We are not a consulting company. We are supporting. We are an accelerator, and we are a go-to-market engine. We did our research, but at the end of the day, once we made our decision, we made our decision. We think Priori is fantastic, and I think with any company, it is a combination of the technology you have now, the go-to-market engine you have, and the people that you have pushing it forward. And even if someone else came out with something quite good, it's a competitive market. Like I believe in Basha, I believe in Mira and the team, and I think that they will. Nobody is ahead in every factor all the time. But I believe they have the right technology and the right team and the right go-to-market to stay absolutely top of the line for the foreseeable future. Now, 10 years from now, who knows? Maybe Priori has sold to Thomson Reuters. Maybe they've gone public. Maybe we're not working with them for some reason.
Some VC firm has come along. And...
Sure, absolutely. And that's where the flexibility comes in. But in the short to medium term, this is who we're going to war with, right? We really believe that these companies are fantastic.
Yeah. Basha, you alluded to this earlier when you were kind of introducing yourself, but the pandemic has certainly changed the market for good and for bad. How do you, what have you seen in terms of that change, and how do you think what LexFusion is doing fits into that? It serves where we are right now.
So the pandemic has dramatically accelerated buying behavior for Priori, and it's I hesitate to say it's been a great 6 months because it's tragic and terrifying 6 months for so many, but for Priori, we've seen a lot of business growth, and we've seen a lot of business growth because in-house teams are trying to think strategically about how to basket their legal work, saving time while improving the quality of the services that they're receiving. And Priori is a way to do that. It's a way to find exactly the right lawyer for any project, from attorneys at solo practitioners up to the AmLaw 100. And we are seeing in-house teams who have, historically found us interesting, but there wasn't a big catalyst to all of a sudden be really excited about thinking about how to use us in this next period. And I think that's exactly the kind of market frothiness that LexFusion has an opportunity to jump into, because all of the solutions, all of the companies that are part of the LexFusion member network do exactly that. They create various kinds of efficiencies while improving satisfaction with services received. And there's a really healthy appetite to do that in a counter-cyclical environment, which is where we are right now. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of growth of legal innovation generally. And what Joe and Paul are able to do is to sort of create some clarity in the mayhem, and given the amount of research they've done into these companies. I mean, of course, I would say that, but it really is true. We've spent, my co-founder Mira and I have spent hours and hours and hours with Paul and Joe, both before they invited us to participate in this. We were thoroughly vetted ourselves. Our team was thoroughly vetted. They went through every aspect of our technology platform. They're not joking around when they say they're actually doing their research. And we've spent hours after, again, talking about how we fit into the overall spectrum of the solutions they're offering. And I think that I think that as there is a lot of interest in figuring out how to use technology to drive efficiency, all of the companies in the LexFusion member network have an opportunity, and I think that that is going to be an accelerant, both for all of us and for LexFusion itself.
Bob, do you mind if I jump in there too?
Not at all.
Yeah, that was an awesome answer. I mean, I think I also think of, if 2008 was like a body blow to legal, like 2020 is a knockout punch. And I don't mean that legal's gone. I just mean that it's going to get up different than it went down. The reason that I thought the timing was right, I mean, I think I told you earlier, Bob, I have a baby coming in late December. This was not the ideal time for me to make a big career move, but the timing feels perfect. Like, you have the rise of legal operations professionals over the last 5 years. You have talk about doing more with less, which I'm not sure was actually true in the last couple of years as profits went through the roof. But it was aspirational. Now I think you have the infrastructure in place, you have the solutions in place, many of which are mature, especially the LexFusion members that are ready to plug and play, ready to cut costs. Like now, not in 5 years. Like these are mature offerings that are excellent. And then you have the knockout punch of the pandemic. You have lawyers for the first time putting everything in the cloud, working remotely, all of these things. And that's why, I use the term legal innovation instead of legal tech, because it's innovation that's allowing all sorts of different business models. Even Priori, Basha's company, is absolutely a fantastic, phenomenal piece of technology, but it also leads for a new means of service delivery. So I find the distinction almost impossible to make anymore. But these innovations are ready to roll, and I think that we're going to have a much more mature buying process where the buyers and the sellers can and should be friends. They're working towards the same thing. They shouldn't be annoying each other, and they shouldn't be, frustrating, getting in each other's way. It should be, hey, how can we again drive costs down 3 to 5 to 10%? And it's like, okay, let's sequence these things. Let's talk about what's out there, and how you're going to use them one after another to continue to drive down cost and drive up quality. And the last thing I'll say on that, and this is going to be, as I get back into the world of writing about legal innovation, it is also very much my thesis that these innovations are going to expand the pie, as opposed to reducing the pie for lawyers. I think we're going to have to think more broadly about what it means to be a lawyer or to solve legal problems, because I think the future, which will have more opportunity and more revenue coming into the broader legal sector, will also include a lot of technology-driven solutions that deliver legal advice and other things like that. But I think this is a really exciting time. And if I was a law student, I wouldn't be scared. I'd be excited. I'd be like, wow, I have more opportunities than ever.
Yeah. So on the buyer side, what does that relationship look like? I'm the GC at a Fortune 500 company. Am I the person you're talking to and working with, or how is this going to work?
Yeah, I mean, look, it depends. I mean, I think that I always think the absolute ideal meeting typically is the GC, the head of legal operations, and the GC's top few lieutenants, and then maybe even a senior person from IT who represents the legal general counsel's office. But everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face, right? Like there are lots of different great meetings. I think that the head of legal operations these days tends to be the Sherpa for the seller, in that they have responsibility over the business of the entire legal department, and they have the time and the mental bandwidth to think through it all. So I think if there needs to be one contact, it's often the head of legal operations. But in an ideal world, it would be that broader audience for about 1 hour every half year, to come in and see everything that's out there, and then of course as needed, with phone calls and emails to know that you have a single point of contact that has in their network the ability to solve virtually any legal problem with excellent companies that you're just not going to do better than.
Yeah. And what's that conversation? I mean, I know earlier you said you're not a consultant. So are you coming in and giving me a sales pitch on behalf of these 7 companies, or what's happening?
So, I guess I am loath to use the word sales pitch, but at the end of the day, we represent companies. So yes, we believe that if it's the right fit, these are and you have a need in these 7 areas, these are the right companies for you to go with. We think, if you went out and spent, hundreds of hours issuing RFPs and reading thousands of pages of single space market copy, you would probably not push your net knowledge forward an iota. We're going to tell you about the broader world, but we are representatives of these companies, just like anyone you talk to from a company is a representative of those companies. I feel this way strongly, Bob. Like the ability to persuade people to do something is a power that can cut both ways. It can be used for the forces of evil or used for the forces of good. Like everybody persuades their children to brush their teeth, and they use every power. And brushing your teeth is disgusting. You're swishing around your own saliva. It's gross, but it's very good for you. And
as the owner of a 3-year-old.
As the owner of a 3-year-old. So one of the things that we did with this consortium of companies is we went out and found companies and did our research and signed them up to be part of the network that we believe in our hearts are akin to brushing your teeth. They are good for you. They're going to make your practice better. And I have absolutely no issue going to buyers and looking in the eye and say, here's my recommendation. We're not charging the buyers 1 iota. We work on behalf of these fantastic sellers and these fantastic companies.
I'm also going to get Joe to come in and help my 3-year-old brush her teeth every day.
That's right. Through gentle persuasion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so much of this, Basha, I'm sure that your experience already has been that so much of what you'd call, I guess, the sales cycle is all about relationships. And I mean, it sounds like this is a very relationship-driven model in terms of what you're trying to do here.
Absolutely.
Makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah, I would only say, I spend a lot of my time, I do a lot of that relationship building for Priori, and I love that part of my job. And I spend a lot of time recommending other companies to the heads of legal operation that I'm talking to, either because they've explicitly asked me, who do you like in this space, or because they think we do managed services, or they think we do contract lifecycle management, or something that's an adjacency to who we are. And I never want someone to use us for a different kind of problem, not least because we won't do a good job for them. But that's a trend that happens in almost every conversation that I have. And so that's another reason why I think on both sides, LexFusion is kind of a no-brainer, because they can really work with the legal departments and heads of legal operations to understand what their needs and priorities are, and then help stitch together a solution that narrowly addresses those, rather than having to go out and do research in each category and then put together that quilt themselves. Right.
I never asked, but I assume it's obvious what the business model is here, Joe.
Yeah, so we're retained by all of our member companies.
Yeah. So as of today, you're launching this company. What's your roadmap for the first 12 months or so? Where do you want to be a year from now with this?
We want to be the legal community's first call when they have a question about legal innovation. I mean,
that sounds good. That's easy.
I mean, we like I said, our model is so aligned with their interests. We will either have it or we will research it for you for free, because if a new solution is truly excellent, we're going to want them to be part of our network. Yeah. We want the best and brightest and most innovative ideas to be part of this network. And we think, new companies especially will benefit from it phenomenally. And then, if we are getting those leads of new legal innovation companies from the buyers, we're going to see what they're actually interested in as well. So we're going to continue to create this virtuous cycle of bringing on, adding to the network companies that are not only excellent, but they're also ones that the buyers are beginning to develop some interest in on their own.
Well, we're just about out of time. And before we wrap up, let me give each of you an opportunity to wrap up if you'd like to. Basha, any further thoughts or final thoughts that you want to share before we wrap up?
I'm one of the things that excited me the most when I first began speaking to Joe and Paul about LexFusion was the idea that the marketplace for legal innovation services and legal technology was reaching a degree of maturity such that it made sense for a company like theirs to launch. And I think that, I think I agree with Joe and always have agreed with Joe that the pie is getting bigger. This creates a rising tide for all of us in the innovation community and at legal departments and at law firms. And I'm really excited to see what kind of changes LexFusion can make in the industry, and also what's going to come for us generally. I think it's a really exciting time and a watershed, really, in innovation becoming central to the practice of law rather than afterthought.
Yeah, it really is. And it's interesting, as we've all discussed earlier in this broadcast, how the pandemic has in some ways, accelerated or contributed to that, as ironic as that seems. But
it really has. I would just close with, we want to change the paradigm of buying in legal. We want to increase cycle times. We want to make sure that the buyers know that they have someone who's genuinely listening and understands them, and will be feeding that information back to the best in class innovators. So either the innovators through LexFusion of today and tomorrow will be able to help them with their problems, or you better believe we're going to get working on the problems right now to make sure we have their solution the next time we meet with them in a, controlled, calm, non-cold calling way, as peers trying to figure out problems together and help the legal community together.
Well, congratulations to both of you on this launch of this new venture. I really look forward to following how it develops, and I'm sure Joe, you'll keep me posted as we go. We
will. It's not real until Bob reports on it. So it was so nice to be able to tell you the story.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks to both of you for your time, and it's been a pleasure to speak with you. We've been speaking with Joe Borstein and Basha Rubin. Big thanks to both of you for taking the time to be with us today. Thanks, as always, to Ben Ambrogi and his company, Populous Radio, for producing and editing today's show. Thanks to all of you for listening. Until next time, this is Bob Ambrogi.